Hello everyone and welcome to another vlog. Today I have to film in my balcony because inside my home is a full renovation going on, so we'll have to record over here. So this video is going to be your questions and my answers. Those questions were posed on Instagram on one of my stories, so once every 2 or 3 weeks I'll regularly post a story where you can ask questions about photography. So if you want to have the chance to have your question answered, first of all you need to follow me on Instagram to know when I'm posting a story. So my link to my Instagram profile, of course, is in the description of this video. Okay, so this was a story where I asked people to pose their questions. I'm not going to answer every question because there will not be time. First question from Reflect on Light. One lens fixed focal or zoom and what? So the question is one lens fixed focal or zoom and what? And what, I don't know exactly, but as a landscape photographer I prefer lenses that are not primes, because then I have to change them a lot and all the dust and the dirt from the landscape will get inside my sensor. I'll translate it because it's a question in Romanian. How can I work on posing, ideas, imagination to be able to create? Well, your way of imagining things is heavily related to the things that you are watching. So in order to develop your creativity, if you want, you need to look at various stuff. If you're interested in learning how to pose people, you can look at portrait photographers, but not only that, you can look at painters that pose their groups and persons in such interesting ways. And these days there is an interesting trend where you can pose people as the old painters did, but with a technological add or something modern add to it. So just to summarize and answer to your question, the more you're gonna look at different creative stuff, the more ideas will come to you. Another question, how far should I go with post-processing? Well, there is no rule that say post-processing has to stop at a certain point, but the final image has to look good. Now this expression, the final image has to look good, means different thing from different people. So it's up to you to decide how far you should go with your post-processing. As I told you, the final result has to look good, but there's no way, there are no rules to say this image looks good. There is just an, I don't know, aesthetic of the eye, if you want. So you take a look at the image and you decide instantly if that image goes for you or not. Another question, can photography solve a social problem? Well, I think photography can raise awareness on different social problems, but solving the problem, it's very difficult as a photographer to solve a social problem. Only if you are a really big influencer you can solve a social problem by raising money, by determining a certain person or governments to take certain decisions. And it also depends on the social problem. If that social problem is a really big social problem, then it's really difficult to say that through photography you managed to solve this. Small social problems can be solved, or at least get those problems into the eye of the media, and then people can take different actions to kind of try and solve them. What is a trick that you have learned and changed the way you thought about photography? Well, I think this is actually related to another question. What's worst, under or overexposed for landscapes? So these questions are related, that is why I'm answering in one answer. The biggest thing that I realized is that I have to expose for the subject, for my point of interest. And when you are thinking at your image like that, then you automatically don't care about the rest of the image. So I'm exposing properly for my subject. Now the way I'm picking my subject is to have the biggest contrast, the biggest separation, the biggest source of light, the biggest luminosity, the biggest color attention to be represented for that, to be represented by that subject. And the minute you have the biggest quantity of light on your subject. If you're exposing for that, the rest of the image falls in a little bit of darkness. And that is my way of photographing. That is the biggest thing that I discovered, that if I isolate my subjects and if I try to frame them in such a way that I have only that point of interest into the light, then I can create a much more dramatic and intense image. How did you learn composition? From painters. It's the easiest and best way to deal with it. How to deal with harsh light? It's very difficult to deal with harsh light. There are multiple ways of harsh light, but the baddest, if you want harsh light, it's the light that is coming directly from above, that takes away everything, or the light that is coming directly from your back to your front. Again, it takes away everything. Other than that, you can go to a more desaturated look and it will work better. Hi, which places are your favorite for taking photos in? Unfortunately, your question you have to pose short questions on Instagram stories. Can high ISO pictures look good? The answer is yes. The only thing that you need to be careful is if you're raising the ISO, especially if you're raising the ISO really high, make sure the image is properly exposed. If you have to further push up the shadows, then you'll get lots of noise, first. And second, be very careful with the sharpness of the overall image, because sharpness applied on the overall image will increase your noise. How can I stay creative or source creativity? I can tell you what works for me. I'm looking at painters a lot. I'm looking at photographers a lot. I'm looking at movies. I read fantasy books. I basically absorb every kind of imagery that I can, and from that your ideas will emerge. Why are my photos mostly blurry? There are multiple reasons for that. Maybe your time is not short enough for you to shoot handheld. If you're photographing on a tripod, make sure to have a 2-second delay on your trigger, or use a remote control. For example, if you forgot to turn off vibration reduction on or image stabilization on your lens, some lens can cause this on longer exposures. It's really important what kind of device and the equipment are, of course, being used. At some point, yes, you need a certain type of equipment. You can't do sports photography without a certain focal length. If you are into stock photography, you need to produce the best quality as possible with the lowest ISO noise as possible. In terms of fine art photography, I don't think that you can do this with whatever camera gear you have. So it's a matter of your understanding of your destination and your target audience. There are types of photography that demand a certain type of equipment. How to make the big step from amateur into pro? Well, it's a very tough question. I have a previous video that talked about what it means to be a landscape photographer full-time and to earn your money and your existence from that. But I think it takes a lot of courage, and you should be in a state of your own life that permits that. If you are a young person that has no family, and by family I mean children, then I think you can go for it. You can try it. If it doesn't work, it's no problem. If you are a young person with children, it's a little difficult because you need to provide for your family. If you are a little older and your children are grown up, then you can try. You have your own freedom. So it depends very much on how you are positioned socially, if you want. But it takes a lot of courage to go full-time into photography, especially landscape photography, because it takes a lot of physical effort and a lot of time before you make money from all this. So I hope you found these questions interesting. I think these questions are much more interesting than previous questions from this series where you ask questions. So once again, follow me on Instagram. The link is in the description of this video. And once every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll pose a story asking you to pose your photography related questions. Now you can also support me by buying one of my editing courses. The link is again in the description of this video. And until next time, keep on photographing because it's the only way that you can get better. Thanks and bye bye.